Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Ooh, hi everybody. I'm Ken Calvert, and welcome to the, that's scary, Father Joe podcast. The Father Joe Grimaldi podcast, proudly supported by Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. Hoot believed that true luxury should play a bigger role in your life, not just behind the wheel of your vehicle, but also about and out in the world. Should make your life more effortless, preserving your time and energy for what matters most, like your family, your church. To accomplish this, Star Lincoln is committed to the owner experiences designed to do just that very thing. That's the Star Lincoln way. Look, there's no greater luxury than our time, and Lincoln provides us with an effortless way to service our Lincoln. Just schedule a time and place convenient to you, and they'll bring you a loaner vehicle when we pick up yours. Stop on by Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln and check out the new Navigator, the Aviator, the Corsair, Nautilus, and of course the Lincoln MKZ and the Lincoln Continental. Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. It's the home of the Star treatment. All right, I think the opening was a little weak, and I apologize for that, but I decided to go into a little scary voice because you know what's coming up? Halloween, oh gosh. And let's talk about the Catholic Church's connection with Halloween.
Oh, sure, that'll be interesting.
You and I talked about this,
I
think months ago, and you surprised me when you said, oh, you don't realize the backstory here. There's a whole story. I mean, it's basically the eve of All Saints' Day. Well, you go ahead. You explain it.
Actually, it's 3 days instead of 2.
All right, well, go ahead. I'm going to get out of the way then.
No, that's okay. I'm just going to say this. It involves Halloween as the eve, obviously, because it's an old English expression. As a matter of fact, I went to All Hallows High School.
Yeah, you did, in New York City.
In New York City, and it still exists, and it's going strong.
And it's a basketball powerhouse.
It is, but it's got All Hallows is All Saints, basically. Mm-hmm. And so the word Halloween is made up of a word that refers to eve, like the eve of, and then hallow, Saints, the eve of All Saints, because the main feast in those 3 days is All Saints. So you have the eve of All Saints, and then the next day, on the 2nd, we celebrate All Souls Day. And it's very highly celebrated in South America, particularly, and in many places in Europe. There are processions, people dress up. And I'm wondering, I really don't know where the idea of dressing up for Halloween came up, but I know that kids dress up in every possible costume you can think of. As a matter of fact, it's even been somewhat controversial because some school systems say they're not allowed to get dressed up anymore because it's too expensive, and we're going to cut that out and all of this. So there's all sorts of reasons. But meanwhile, people try to associate it with All Saints by asking the kids to dress as their favorite saint.
Oh.
So they would come to school in that, and then they would have a special mass, and they would wear the costume of their special saint.
St. Luke's, St. Mark.
Whatever it might be. So, but and just to try to emphasize the religious aspect of the Feast of All Saints, which is the next day. One of the things I've noticed, and in just my own little world, I'm thinking, years ago, there was nothing more to it than a parent taking the kids from one house to another, usually neighbors, where the kids could fill up their little baskets or bags with candy, and it would be a real special night. They'd be dressed up, this kind of thing. It was really a very nice little event that took place annually. Now I think there's a lot more emphasis on the adults having costume parties, this type of thing.
Restaurants, it's one of their biggest nights.
Yeah, and the one I used to get a big kick out of is you have people dressed as witches in the banks. And I thought that was a little bit...
Do you know, let me,
that's... Tell me.
Yeah, no, here's the deal. I would be terrified of working at a bank on Halloween because somebody could easily say it's Halloween. I'm going to dress up as a bank robber.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not funny. Okay, not funny. But at the same time, there may be sinister forces at work that decide to use Halloween as an opportunity to literally rob a bank.
Oh, yeah. And even the employees
Sure.
wear costumes. Even today, they'll
Yeah.
still wear costumes for Halloween. You know, there's a certain amount of gravitas towards banking, in banking, and you don't expect going to the bank and seeing the teller dressed like a witch. I mean, with the seriousness of the whole thing disappears. But anyway, but in any case, that is a very interesting point. But Halloween has become, well, economically a very, very profitable situation for stores and countries and so on and so forth.
At the retail level, it's
Yeah.
number 2 now to Christmas.
That's amazing.
And closing in fast.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I really, personally, I don't see it. I have nothing against Halloween, by the way. Of course, some of the stuff that's come out of it is because people don't know why we celebrate it. You know, you hear people say, well, we should really celebrate it on the closest weekend. Well, then you'd have to call it something else. But you wouldn't. Mm-hmm. People don't care about that anymore. But the idea that you can't say it's the eve of All Saints if it falls on the 4th, okay?
Right.
So it's still Halloween only because it's the 31st of October, not because of anything else. Okay, the Feast of All Souls and All Saints are very interconnected. I mean, and because for us, I'm just thinking there's a certain relationship that occurs between those who have gone before us, those who are presently here on this earth, and those who will come in the future. So there's an interrelationship there because it's there is a relationship in the sense that our parents are responsible for the way we are to an extent. I mean, we have a lot to do with it individually as we grow older. For good or for bad, they've influenced our lives. And so it's a time of prayer for them and thanksgiving and sometimes of forgiveness. So it's a combination of things that occurs because there is that relationship. All Souls celebrates those that have gone before us. And I am not sure where the processions that take place in South America almost to me looks like the Halloween that we celebrate the day before All Saints.
Right.
Have you ever seen images of that on the news?
I have.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of that sort of macabre,
yeah.
of even Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It sort of has its own little dark side, if you will.
Yeah.
No, I have, and I get that. But you brought up an interesting point about the fact that the parents, and it could be a day of reconciliation.
Sure.
That's an interesting take that I had never thought about.
A time of prayer. We pray for those who have gone before us, and we thank God for them.
Sure.
But there are people, whether or not it's their own thinking or whether or not it's a reality, they feel that maybe their parents have not lived up to the image of what a parent should be. Huh. And so they pray for them. And it's a good time to say, okay, I forgive. You can't live with this all the time.
Little mending of the
even though
fence,
the other person is gone, but it's a time to forgive.
I think it's interesting, what you enlighten me to is the fact that it's All Saints Day, it's All Souls Day, followed the next day. In a way, it's a Christmas Eve. For my pea brain, it's easier to think of Halloween as the Christmas Eve to All Saints Day.
Correct.
All right? Followed by reflection into All Hallows Day, which I think is even more important because of the fact that that's the time to really reflect on. It doesn't have to be just directly your family, right?
Oh, no.
It's all that we've been connected with that have had influences in our life.
Exactly.
That you sort of reflect on, pray for, pray to.
Yeah.
And if it requires reconciliation, that's the time to do it.
Yeah, it is. I noticed, too, that many of the churches will have special services there are special services anyway, masses that are offered for All Souls Day, which is the 2nd of November. It's not a holy day of obligation. For example, a group of people will come together to pray for all of the people who have died from January 1st to that day.
Yeah.
And they'll bring candles, and they'll have remembrances. There'll be pictures of their loved ones that they put on tables, so that as the prayer goes on, they can visually see the people that people are praying for. It's a nice way of having services for those who are departed.
Sure, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I really do.
So it takes on a different note than All Saints Day. You look at it this way, who are the saints?
Yeah.
The way we celebrate All Saints Day is because ordinarily we just know about St. Catherine, we know about St. Francis, we know about St. Dominic.
St. Luke, St. Mark, St. John.
On the 1st, what we celebrate is the everyday man, the everyday saint. I mean, those people that are not necessarily famous, but have led a good life. And they struggle with challenges, but they move forward towards the Lord in the best way they can.
Right.
And so those are the saints, really, a combination of that plus the famous ones. So it's not just the famous ones that we're celebrating. It's the everyday man. So very often what I like to do is point out to the congregation that are there, we're celebrating you as well today, huh? Because you're struggling to do the right thing. To start with, you're here at Mass, and it's not a Sunday. So you've decided to celebrate it. Huh? It's a holy day of obligation, but a lot of people just don't do it. But you're here. So you're trying to do the right thing. You try to live up to what Christ has established for your path. And so you're trying to do that. In my mind, you're a saint.
Now, the podcast is about Halloween and how the Catholic Church approaches it, the backstory behind it, the connection. But you bring up so many different points that I want to get back to for just a second. Holy days of obligation. Do as many people show up as they would on a Sunday? Or are the numbers lower on a holy day of obligation, or about the same?
No, they're not about the same because many of the churches don't have as many masses.
Okay.
So right there, it's different.
All right.
So on Sunday, where the church might have Saturday night at 5, Sunday at 7, Sunday at 8,
Sunday
10,
at 10,
12, 5 again at night.
Yeah.
So you don't have that many masses on All Saints.
Well, that's why I would think it would be packed then if you only.
Well, it's not even that is packed. So what I'm trying to say is that first of all, because there are a limited number of masses,
right,
automatically that cuts off the numbers. So, and also not in every, not all dioceses celebrate the same holy days of obligation.
That's another podcast.
Well, it is to an extent, but I mean, if we're going to just briefly bring that across today. For example, I belong to the Diocese of Honolulu, and we're down to 2 holy days of obligation. We have Christmas Day and the Immaculate Conception.
What about Easter?
Well, it's on a Sunday, so...
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
But the reason for, as they say, the Immaculate Conception, people say, well, why that? It's because the Immaculate Conception is Mary as the patroness of the United States. So they decided that it should be a holy day of obligation because we are praying for our United States. And so it's the December 8th is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, and the other is December 25th. So the 2 holy days of obligation in Hawaii would be in December. The other holy days, what they've done to accommodate the people, because many of them are working on holy days.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
So to accommodate them, what they've done is they've moved them to the closest Sunday so that it's intertwined with that particular Sunday.
Which makes total sense, by the way.
So, for example, the Assumption of the Blessed Mother, very often the 15th of August now becomes closer to the Sunday. Now, in Detroit, we still have a separate date for it, but that doesn't exist in all of the dioceses. It's different.
So you're saying All Saints' Day will always be on November 1st.
As far as I know.
And celebrated, yeah. Well, I mean, I know it. Excuse me, I know. Duh. Here we go, Ken. What I'm saying is that it will still be celebrated on that day, be it a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday, Saturday, or a Sunday.
Correct.
Okay. Which I think is the way it should go.
Right.
You know, I don't like moving things around for people's conveniences.
No, I don't either, but...
Yeah, that just, to me, you know, pushes my buttons.
Well, in Hawaii, they don't celebrate it.
I understand.
But they do have a special... You know what they do is, to accommodate the people, is to have a special day, a special celebration on the 1st, even if they're not celebrating it as a holy day of obligation.
Look, we've had this discussion before. It's cafeteria Catholics. When you talk about people dropping everything to go to Mass on All Saints' Day and returning the next day for All Souls' Day...
Yeah.
That's somebody that's really deeply entrenched in the beliefs of the Catholic Church.
Sure.
When I don't mean to denigrate anyone by saying cafeteria Catholics, but I wouldn't think that I think a lot of Catholics do remember it's All Saints' Day. Maybe some don't. But I don't think that they find the time in their calendar to go to Mass that day. And it's a holy day of obligation. Maybe they do it in their own way. But you see what I'm saying.
By all means.
Getting back to Halloween, and at the Catholic schools, the 1st through 8th grade, do they push back on dressing up on Halloween? Or say, let's have a Halloween party?
Well, that's not even taken into consideration.
Oh, okay. So they're not totally against Halloween.
Oh, no. But, you know, the extremes exist. If you have to go to a haunted house, but before you enter that haunted house, you have to take a physical, you have to make... Really, there are places that do that.
Oh, I know.
Because they don't want to be sued.
Listen.
And so, I was shocked when I heard that. I says, my God... And there's one place that I think is offering $20,000 if you can get through the whole thing. And for the last 5 years, no one has ever completed the tour.
And I don't get it because I'm not a haunted house guy.
No.
I don't want to be freaked out.
No.
It's not good for your health.
That's right.
I mean, you and I know this.
Yes, right.
You and I take pills to prevent that.
That's right.
The last thing you and I are going to do is get in the car and go to one of those really well-done haunted houses. Yeah. You know, where people say, oh! It's like, at the end of the day, you know, you can say you did it. Nah.
No, I can pass. I can pass on
I'll
that.
tell you what, I'll have a cheeseburger, and you tell me all about it when you come out, okay?
Exactly. I like that attitude.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Well, I think we learned a lot today. I would like to thank you for joining me in the laboratory. Oh, you must be very careful because I'm about to come over there.
Are you Mr. Hyde?
I don't know who I'm trying to be. I always think of Gene Wilder and Marty Feldman. Okay. And Marty Feldman had that hump on his back. And Gene Wilder in the movie said something to him about, you know, I have a friend who can remove that hump. And Marty Feldman said, what hump? You know what I mean? And the hump was constantly changing from the right side to the left side. Gene Wilder, those huge eyes just looking at him like, wait a minute.
Yes.
Last time we saw each other, that hump was on the left side. Now it's on the right side. So I think we're on the right side of the podcast, so I guess I'm going to say happy haunting, everyone. And I'll see you in church. I'll see you on the
1st and the 2nd.
Yeah, that's right. I'll see you on the next Father Joe podcast. I'm Ken Calvert. Thank you for joining us, everybody. See you next time.
Look forward to it. Thank you. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.